what has been your decolonization process? Like, I know you grew up in a pretty activist kind of community, so were you taught from a child like this system is really uh, not for us and here's what you need to do, or did you have to?
Mm-hmm. Good question. So my decolonization process was pretty much to step to the teachers, my Black activist teachers, so that they included women, gay people, children, indigenous people, all people of color,
Mm-hmm.
all poor people,
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledge that we really all one tribe and color is made up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up with all of the values of, like I said, each one teach one. You be an activist. You stand up for what's right. You use every avenue that you can to make a level playing field. You do everything that you can do to address injustice, right, and harm to others.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was fired from the Louisiana Bureau for Women for saying that I was Black, lesbian, and feminist,
Mm-hmm.
I took the state of Louisiana to court.
I read that about you.
I took the state.
How old were you?
I was 25.
Oh my God, I love it. 25 went and sued the state of Louisiana.
I sued the state of Louisiana in state court. Who was in state court with me?
Who?
A bunch of white feminists.
Wow, that's
no
great.
Black people from my community.
Wow.
No family member, none of my activist communities, not even my best friend.
Wow.
Okay? So
they're all like, no, you go ahead.
So the state of Louisiana said, we think that we protected her free speech. And so I went with the ACLU, sued in federal court. In federal court. Who was in federal court? A bunch of white, lesbian feminists. Any Black people? No. Any family? No. Any Black activist community? No. None of those people were in court. None of them. And most of them, part of it was this thing that Black people said, we understand, Black people been lesbian and gay all along, but it's hard enough to fight the racism. And now you can be a lesbian. You can be one of them, but just don't
talk about
it. Because you're going to upset the civil rights apple cart. You can't do that. That strategy, as well as the homophobia, right, is what caused me to be completely separated from my family, my city, my home, my communities. And shortly after that is when I moved to California. I only lived back in New Orleans for 4 years.
Wow.
Since then. And it's one of the breaches, this thing that I'm talking about. If I had to go back and, what would you do? I knew I knew when I was falling in love with some white woman, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to kill everybody. What am I doing? Except the core of me knew this love, recognized this love and this joy. And this amazing woman who I still love and adore.
Yeah.
If I make this step, I'm going to just open up the Grand Canyon here.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like, how my life's been. So I had to, I did that. And then I had to traverse the Grand Canyon to keep on the journey. Right? But it also caused me, it was 1980 that I was fired. It was 1981 that I wrote the Brownness piece, which is in the This Bridge anthology. It is in 1980 that I was invited to the first writers group, all white women. I was the only colored person. And since then, I have never, ever been without a writers group and community.
Mhm.
Never ever, and I never stopped writing. And then, like I said, when I was 60 years old, I decided, well, you know what do I want? I want to write his life. So I invented this part that I told you about. But I also went back to school. I went
Yes.
and I went to USF and earned an MFA, and my dissertation was a memoir, which the Charlotte Sheedy Agency has just picked up, called Black Magnolia, and it is about my life as a very, very beloved, well cared for young Black girl who was groomed and sexually molested for years by a very powerful Methodist civil rights era preacher, and about that journey from there to here. So the memoir really talks about what were the things that got me to this place now. And when I finished that book, I decided it's like, I'm not done, and so, a memoir is a memoir. It's memories. It's my memories, but it's real, right?
Mhm.
It's not fiction, right? And there were other really interesting lives in there I wanted to write about, but I couldn't write about it because it's a memoir. You can't tell somebody else's story, right?
Right.
So I decided I needed to write fiction. And then I decided, well, I never wrote fiction before. So I went to Goddard College in Vermont and got another MFA in fiction and wrote.
Excuse me, for the audience. I don't know if you heard this, but she did both of these masters after she turned 60. I think that's amazing.
Right.
So,
So it's MSW, MFA, MFA.
Yes.